Hi, everyone. Looks like we are live. Welcome to the third Q&A with the LUKSO tech team. My name is Bianca. I'm head of developer relations at LUKSO, and today I have with myself Andreas, Felix, and Johan. Hi, guys. How are you doing?
Hey, Bianca.
Welcome, everyone.
Yeah, welcome, everyone.
Welcome, everyone.
I'll start with the first tip. So if you're in Istanbul at Dev Connect, you have the chance to meet Andreas and Johan in person. And also, don't forget that on Saturday, we have meetup number 2 at Soho House. Now, coming back to our session today, welcome everyone. For those of you attending on YouTube, please feel free to use the live stream comments to put any questions that you might have for our tech team. And in the meantime, I'll start with a bit of housekeeping about how this session will go. So as usual, this session is recorded. So even after this session is over, you'll have the opportunity to revisit any particular sections from this session or the whole section if you wish on the LUKSO YouTube. Let's see. Okay, we have Sek saying hi, Tech Meme Daily, Hakan. Okay, and we have our first question. So GLab is asking the payloads sent to a relayer service to deploy a universal profile. The property LSP3 profile metadata is a string like, and here we have an example of string. Which function is used to encode the profile metadata JSON object? I think, I don't know if our guests got the question. It looks like something specific.
So if you're using the ERC725JS library, you can just use getData and fetchData. These two functions will automatically decode. And if you're just calling the contract directly, you can also use the ERC725JS library and then call the encode data function as well as the decode data function. So that works in both cases. You just have to submit the schema of the LSP3 profile data.
Thank you, Felix. We have another question. So for a project that requires minting unique digital tokens, each representing distinct entities with varying attributes, is LSP8 digital asset or LSP8 mintable more suitable?
I can go ahead if you want. So
Sure.
yeah, I mean, it depends on the use case. Both LSP8, you have individual assets. The mintable just makes it mintable, of course, and so people can like generate their assets on their own, and you have like lots of functionality there. But if you want to create the full collection on its own and then hand out the assets all at once without having a mintable functionality, then you can just use the regular one. Yeah. And of course, you can also use the LSP7. For instance, if you have some tickets, you can also use the LSP7 without the fungibility. You just don't have any commas after it, so you cannot split the asset or like the tokens in half. And this would also be suitable, for instance, if you want to generate lots of tickets with individual metadata, but you don't need the individual ID, then you can just create regular tokens and decrease the commas in the contract.
I would also add here that in a nutshell, basically LSP7 is great when you have a collection of NFTs where each asset is the same. And with LSP8, when you have an NFT collection where you have unique assets. Our next question.
From the question, it seems that LSP8 is more suitable here. And it just depends. Like if you want to mint, then use the mintable. And if not, if you want to generate the full collection, just use the regular one. Go ahead, Bianca.
Our next question is, how would I go about adding a guardian to the universal profile? Is it plug and play, let's say like Gnosis modules?
Should I go ahead?
Whoever wants to take this one, yeah.
Yeah, so like the Guardian, what you can use is the key manager and then attach another controller key. And so every controller key that has specific rights with the key manager can be used as a Guardian to add more controller keys. But yeah, a Guardian itself is just a controller key with the right permissions. Maybe I can share the permissions link. If you go onto our docs, then you can go into contract section, and then within the key manager there you see a whole picture of all the permissions you can set, and then you can just add this Guardian to the key manager of a smart contract, and yeah, just define the permissions you would like the Guardian to have.
I'll also add the link in our hackathon section on Discord. It'll be easier to access after this session. Our next question is this in a scenario where a dApp involves creating unique digital assets with specific attributes, would utilizing LSP Factory be recommended for efficient contract deployment and management? Maybe we hear from Johan or Andreas this time.
That depends how much you need to do. Probably not, because it's kind of a recipe for a specific sequence of events to happen that makes it easier to get started. But if you have any variations, you probably want to do that by yourself.
Anyone else wants to add something? Or if not, we can move to the next question. Okay. It's more a comment. The next question is more of a comment on the previous question regarding the Guardian. So I read about Guardian standard that has thresholds, so was wondering about that. I think. Are you asking, Luca, if you have a threshold, or what do you mean here exactly?
Yeah, would be great if you could point the standard.
Maybe before
yeah,
Luca gets us.
The threshold is the number of guardians that you want to be able to sign and verify that you are who you claim you are. So you can have, for example, 3 guardians and say that you need at least 2 to verify your identity before being able to restitute and do the recovery system. But yeah, I mean the guardian system is not directly plug and play. This is something that you can add, but it's not as plug and play as the stuff that you have on Gnosis. This is not a plugin, but this is something that can be coded, I would say.
Has a lot of extensibility. Our next question is, when you create a universal profile with browser extension, why are 3 controllers initially created instead of just 1?
So The first recovery, one of the controller is the recovery controller. So this is giving some rights for you to be able to recover your UP. The controller that name is this UP browser extension is actually the browser extension in itself that is added as a controller in order to have some privileges on your UP. And the third one, what it is? Let me check just a second.
The third one is where you do it.
I think that there is only two controllers. I don't see a third one. There's just the UP extension and the recovery system, the recovery controller.
Yeah, by default there are those two, but of course you can create more. All right. Until we get more questions on
yes,
YouTube.
Luca, to answer the question, the question from Luca, because he had some issue with Erika Moji, sorry. The audio was weird. Was that probably not? Yes, the answer was probably not.
Thanks a lot, Johan. In the meantime, before we get more questions on YouTube, I have some questions from Discord collected. Can I use a regular wallet to control my universal profile? If so, are there any disadvantages? Johan, you're muted in case you're talking.
Oh yeah, the answer is definitely yes. I mean, you can have the controller are basically EOAs that have specific privileges over your UP. So you can definitely add your current EOA, for example, your MetaMask account, if you want. You can add it as a controller on your UP so that you can have your externally owned account or your EOA that is controlling it. Basically, the extension would wrap everything for you. So yeah, you can add it like that. To come back just quickly on the stuff that we had on YouTube, the question related to GLab Studio. The third one is create and manage your universal profile. So yeah, you have one that is the recovery controller, one that is your UP extension, and the last one that is the universal receiver. The UP receiver is the universal receiver that you have on your universal profile. That's also a controller that is able to update the received asset from your account. So basically, every time you receive an asset, let's say that you receive tomorrow USDC, USDT, or any kind of token, then the universal receiver will update your universal profile by updating the set of received asset, whether it's a token or an NFT, with the new value of the token that you received. So that's why you have also a controller that is the UP receiver. Sorry, I missed the third one because I don't have it on my universal profiles. That's why.
But if you're going to use a regular wallet to interact with the universal profile, then you have to do all the wrapping of the calls to go to the key manager. So you can do it, but it's going to be a lot harder.
So in a nutshell, it's best to use the universal profile, but of course it's possible to use other wallets, but you'll have additional work to do. Yeah. Our next question is the following. In a use case where digital tokens need to carry detailed information, some of which may change over time while other aspects remain static, is it possible to implement a mix of mutable and immutable metadata with NFTs using LUKSO standard proposals?
I guess you can use any kinds of URLs to point to things, so you could theoretically have something that's kind of dynamic, but then it's not checksum. So I mean, that's why everything is stored on IPFS. It's probably better to just modify the data when you need to update it.
Anyone else wants to add something, or should we move to the next question? All right, we have another question from Luca. What are the relevant docs for, let's say, adding custom logic to be executed when an asset is transferred?
So actually, you can find the docs on the docs.luxo.tech. You can find the docs about the LSP1 universal receiver and the universal receiver delegate. The link that I send, the GitHub link that I send on the YouTube chat, Luca, is an example of implementing exactly what you just described. So you will, for example, implement the logic where every time your universal profile receive a specific token that you listed, then you will forward percentage of the received token to another address that can be a UP, an externally owned account, or whatever you want. So this is matching exactly the question that you have and the stuff that you wanted to do.
Thank you, Johan. Our next question. In a scenario where NFTs change hands, does the LUKSO framework permit the new owner to modify the associated metadata? What are the conditions or limitations, if any, for such modifications?
Also fully depends on how it's implemented. For instance, the generic key manager, this one can also be added to an asset, like the LSP7 or LSP8. So if you set permissions for a new owner to change some data, then of course they could do it. You can also use the key manager and attach it to the asset. Yeah, but if not, then yeah, the new owner can't modify anything. You can also set it so, or like, yeah, write it in custom that you can't modify after the initial mint, or that only the creators can modify that are listed in the asset. So that can be fully customized.
We have another comment from Erica asking us to repeat the answer for implementing the mix of mutable and immutable metadata with NFTs using LSPs.
Yeah, Johan can go ahead here and reword his answer.
For Erica question, right?
I can read it once again. Is it possible to implement a mix of mutable and immutable metadata with NFTs using LSPs?
Yeah, it's as Felix was saying, it depends on the implementation, but you can definitely do that. There is no limitation on that, and you can have multiple metadata along with immutable metadata.
Our next question is, will the new owner be able to modify everything the previous owner did? I think this refers to changing NFTs, changing hands.
Well, normally there is no reason why you should not be. You won't be able to do that in the ecosystem using ERC 721. You will be able to do that. LSP8 is based upon those standards, so there is absolutely no reason that you won't be able to change the metadata of an asset once it has been transferred and it's owned by someone else. I mean, the asset is not a UP or a controller where you a universal profile where you have a controller and a key manager that dictates the privileges and the stuff that you can do on that. The asset is exactly like an asset that you can find on the Ethereum world.
Thank you so much, Johan. Our next question is, what is the easiest way to check what LSP standards are used for a given contract? I think Felix can shine here with his recent work.
Yeah, so if you want to check it online, then you can just use the ERC 725 inspect tool. But we also, on our docs, we have a new learn section, and there is a page. Let me check where I can find it, where I can just use a simple snippet to check the interface. So most of the standards have a ERC 165 standard interface. So you can just check the interface, and for everything that is an ERC 725Y standard, so everything that's written into the smart contract, you can check the storage key. And yeah, let me just post the link here in the chat. Then you can look up the code snippet in our playground.
Nice. We have another question from Luca. Why did you guys go with Vite and not Next.js?
That's a opinionated topic and question that can raise a lot of debate. Of course, it's like, I mean, 10 years ago, the question was, do you use React or do you use Angular? The technology that has been chosen is because the people that are using them and developing with them are much more comfortable with that, which means that we can enhance and develop and fix situation much more quickly by using that, rather than jumping on a solution that will be maybe the most common one, for example, Next.js, but that is completely unknown to the engineers that are using that. So in short, I would say this is a matter of preferences from the front-end engineers, and they are going with that, and I think it's completely fine. It does the job, the interface looks sleek, and I mean, that's what it counts, right?
But Vite is something totally different than Next.js. So Next.js and Webpack, or Vite and Webpack, or Next.js or Vue? What the question is a little confusing.
Yeah, I'm also curious, Luca, if you can give us more context on how this potentially affect with your project. Maybe you can help you better with our answer. We have another question from Kevin. Regarding LSP Factory, from my understanding, you can deploy the smart contract on another chain and keep the address you have on LUKSO.
Yes. Yes, exactly. That's why, yeah, we are using the NIC factory. Definitely. This is also why on our testnet and mainnet, and also other networks that are used internally, the address for the UP deployment, the addresses that are used, and the smart contract that are used to deploy UPs through the relayer are the same at the same address every time.
Thank you, Johan. Our next question, how would the smart contract work then if it contains LSP own functions, or what are the example use cases of the LSP? I'm not sure exactly what you mean by, Kevin, by LSP own functions.
Well, the fact that you use the NIC factory means that you can deploy the same contract at the same location on chain. Well, yeah, getting the same address for the contract that you are deploying from one chain to the other. That doesn't mean that it will function in the same ecosystem. I can deploy my LSP contract into Ethereum, for example, or into Avalanche or whatever. But at the same point, if there is not the ecosystem with the LSPs and all of that, then it won't work, actually. If you want to deploy your universal profile using the NIC factory on chain that is not LUKSO, then you still need to have the whole LUKSO ecosystem with the different LSPs that has been deployed in order to make it work. So if you deploy everything using the NIC factory or not, but if you deploy everything onto another chain, then yeah, you will make the LSP standard works on another chain. But using the NIC factory is not that relevant here. It's just a matter of what are the addresses that you will get at the end for your smart contract. But if you're using, if you don't have all the bricks that will make your smart contract work, then ultimately, even if you have the same address, it won't work.
Thank you so much, Johan. Another question is, I'm considering to integrate social recovery for my DApp. How would one go to implement it with universal profiles?
Is this something based on something else? I mean, that's a very generic question. Like, what does that contract do?
Yeah, I agree. It really depends on the specifics and the use case. However, in general, basically what you're looking to do, you want to have certain guardians that you can pass to your friends and families, and these guardians can approve basically certain actions. This is like the whole the big picture, but as Andreas was mentioning, it really depends on your use case and what you're trying to build. Okay, we have one more question. Is there a way to manually backup right now
Yeah, the backup
with the extension?
Yeah, the backup is definitely coming. We had some problems with it, so it was easier to remove it, or better to remove it than to have faulty backups, which don't help anybody. But it's coming back.
And you can also add a new controller yet. Like you can just add another controller in order to back it up, and you can also set an EUA address on a ledger. I mean, that would be something to customize. Maybe someone comes up with a DApp for the hackathon, but yeah, that's already possible. But we will ship it, and we are constantly improving user experience on the extension, and yeah, also the universal profile.cloud page. So
I don't see any more questions. However, a brief statement regarding the UP launch from last week. Thank you so much, everyone, for supporting and testing and creating your universal profiles. We have like over 1K profiles created in less than 24 hours, which I think it's great milestones. Things might not be perfect from the beginning, but we're definitely improving, and you're going to see way more updates over the time. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your questions, and also to our speakers for your answers. For those watching, once again, I would like to remind you that if you have any more questions, you can always ask them in the Hacker discussion channel in Discord. And yeah, we would love to see you next Wednesday for the last Q&A with the LUKSO Tech team.
Yeah, thank you very much. And don't hesitate to ping us or to send us a message on the Hacker discussion and the dev chat if you have anything related to the LSPs, the way that your UP works, how you can integrate with the universal receiver delegate, or whatever that makes your project works better. We will be there for you.
there's another question coming in. Will we be able to delete profiles if additionally created? Like the created profiles and the address of the universal profile, it will stay, but you can just remove your username and all the data attached to it by editing it again. And yeah, you can also remove the controller keys if you like. Then no one else can take that profile anymore.
All right, seems that this one was the last, but as mentioned before, feel free to drop any more questions in our Discord hackathon section. Till next Wednesday, everyone. Bye-bye.